In the wake of the Humboldt Broncos tragedy back on April 6th, what will be the long-term impact on the future of the trucking industry as we know it in Canada? It's time for you and I to elevate the debate here on the Reinvention Chronicles. We've all been watching the news, the social media feeds, the stories of courage, care, and comfort. Jersey Day in Canada back on April 12th, the hundreds and thousands of photographs of the hockey sticks left on the front porch, not only coast to coast here in this country, but from all over the world. The GoFundMe campaign, which has shattered all previous records. And while tragedy does have a way of expanding the heart, let's hope that it can also expand the debate on highway safety in this country after the horrific accident on Highway 35 in northeastern Saskatchewan back on the 6th of April. So, for example, this post is dedicated to asking you, what needs to change with respect to highway safety? How would you reinvent the trucking industry, for example? Now, first, a little bit of context. This is not about assigning blame. Let's face it. The investigation, it's still ongoing. It's going to take months before investigators really figure out what caused the accident between the bus and that transport truck. So this is not about who was behind the wheel. This is not about pointing fingers. Instead, this is about stepping back and looking at the debate from some different points of view. And so how are we going to elevate the debate in the wake of this tragedy? And what I'd like to talk about today is context from the perspective of someone who's been in both of those worlds. So for example, as a former play-by-play announcer and minor hockey coach, the bus was very much a part of an old life. We're talking literally hundreds and hundreds of different trips, and the stories and the camaraderie and the bonding that takes place on a bus on a hockey road trip is unlike any other. And so very much this hits home for anyone who's been a part of that culture here in Canada. But also, many years ago, I had a chance to do some workplace safety training seminars for a big trucking company back on the East Coast. So over a 2-year period, we would have presented these seminars for roughly 800 drivers. And as part of my research, went out on several occasions and drove long routes with guys like Alan Constantine and George LeBlanc, Ransom LTL, did routes from Moncton to Fredericton, St. John and back again, Edmundston and back again. And consequently, it's a very different world when you're sitting in that cab of the truck and you can see from a whole other perspective what the driver sees. And that's dangerous work. Let me tell you, that's tough, demanding work. And I don't see a whole lot of people lining up to go after those jobs and do the very necessary work that we all depend on from the trucking industry. It's so easy to paint these guys as villains, yet the truth is, just look around your house or your office. I mean, if you bought it, a truck brought it. It's a saying in the industry, and it's really, I think, the essential component of our entire economy is we need trucks to get goods shipped back and forth to different markets. But also in the wake of the Humboldt tragedy, maybe, and some have suggested this is indeed a wake-up call for the entire trucking industry. So let's talk for a moment about practical suggestions. How could you help elevate the debate? The last few days, I've been talking to different people in and outside the trucking industry. For example, I know there's a real wave of support for other provinces adopting what we have here in Ontario. Apparently Ontario is the only province with some sort of 100+ hour mandatory training program for new drivers. But I know that my friend Alan Cochran, for example, mentioned the other day, well, why aren't new drivers going out with with veteran experienced drivers, almost like a pilot co-pilot situation. Maybe the first 3 months or 6 months on the job, you can't go out with one of those big transports without someone else with some experience. I know over here, we're at a truck stop just outside of London on the 401. Some people call that a death trap out there with the way so many transports are crossing through 2, 3, 4 lanes of traffic. Have we reached a point where, there's got to be a dedicated lane just for those transport trucks? Because let's face it, we've got 70-ton locomotives basically sharing the road with everyone who's driving a Harley to some, grandmother in a sedan. I'm not sure that we're doing the very best we can in terms of highway safety, which is why hopefully this post can serve as a catalyst for your ideas. What would you do? Maybe we have to take the regulatory practices away from the provinces entirely and make this into federal jurisdiction governed by a very tough federal law, since so many drivers cross over from province to province. I mean, these are just some ideas that we're throwing around now, but we think it is time. What can we do to elevate the debate? Not point fingers, but instead take the debate in a whole new direction. Because, I mean, let's face it, it's just terrible that it takes a tragedy of this magnitude to make us rethink and stop and reflect on what's really important. But we know it's all too easy to point fingers and blames and throw out a bunch of nonsense. But maybe one of the best ways we can honor the memory of the 16 who have passed away as a result of the accident is to do whatever we can to really take highway safety up another notch in this country, and just maybe we'll find a way to prevent these needless accidents and heartbreaking accidents from happening ever again. So remember the Humboldt Broncos, remember to elevate the debate, and we look forward to your comments and see what your suggestions are, so maybe together we can help reinvent the way we have highway systems working in this country for you, me, and for many generations to come.